What is your Nsfw fun fact about yourself? Thanks to an autoimmune disease, my dick is a couple of different colors. No other part of my body has been affected, just my dick. Taste the rainbow. I once realigned the lower spine of a girl I had been seeing by, well, doggy style. She had been plagued by lower back and tailbone issues for months until that fateful day. She thanked me for my services, and needless to say, my dick is now a licensed chiropractor. Girlfriend got a dildo with a suction cup and we were fooling around and I stuck it to my forehead. I was a dildo unicorn for about 30 seconds. Took it off, and the look of horror from her said it all. I had a giant purple bruise on my forehead. Could not find a good excuse, so I called out of work the next day and learned how to do makeup. Do not be a dildo unicorn. My ass is covered in small scars. I hooked up with this girl and ended up staying over. Woke up in the middle of the night needing to pee. ID had a few to drink and was naked. I had to pass through her living room to get to the bathroom. As I tiptoed my way through the living room, I trod on her sleeping cat. Cat screams and scratches me. I panic and stumble ass first through a small glass table. I had about 20 cuts in my ass, blood everywhere, and of course, just to round things off, I pissed right then and there. Needless to say, the girl woke up to a traumatized cat, a destroyed coffee table, and a living room covered in piss and blood. I left very shortly afterwards and was not surprised to find myself blocked instantly, but I still carry the scars to this day. Every time I cry, I get a boner. The news of my grandmother's death was not an exception. That must have been hard for you. OP. I went through a phase where I was having a lot of semi-casual sex with the same 3-4 guys for like a year. I didn't want to date any of them and none of them wanted to date me, and they all knew I was sleeping with other dudes. Some of them even thought that was hot. Anyway, I started thinking I might be emotionally ready for a relationship again, and I wanted to make sure that when I did meet someone I loved, I was the best lover I could be. So I polled all the dudes I was sleeping with for critical assessments of what I did well and what I could improve upon, scores out of 5 and explanations basically. By all accounts, I am really good in bed now. My last boyfriend said that he had no idea sex could feel that good, and he was 8 years older than me, and I owe a lot of that to my 2014 focus group. I had sex in a very expensive stolen car. I do not know it was stolen at the time. My duck buddy worked at a car dealer and said they were allowed to borrow the cars after hours, but when we saw a cop afterwards, scream get out, and we left and ran down the Embarcadero. For about a month, I worried that the cops would find me due to my fingerprints being all over the place, but that was when I was young and thought cops actually cared about that kind of stuff. The former Prime Minister Taoiseach of Ireland has touched my penis, in a medical context, of course. Edit well. This blew up. Thanks for the awards. Wow. For context, this was about 12 or 13 years ago when he was doing his GP placement in my local practice. I needed something checked out, and as I had worked in that practice doing archive filing during the summer as a kid, and my ma'am also worked there as a secretary, Ireland is tiny. I didn't want to go one of the regular docs as they all knew me, so I went to him. He then referred me to a specialist who, again coincidentally, happened to be my best mate's father. I then had surgery twice after that to fix the issue. What I will say about him is that, while I, like most Irish people, have a number of things relating to his politics that I am not a fan of, I will say that he was especially kind to my ma'am after my dad had a severe heart attack a few years ago, and that counts for a lot for me. I once was the dude the lesbian chick had sex with, who upon having sex with me decided she does in fact like girls. I take this as both a compliment and an insult. My dad was having sex with a hospital nurse while my mom was giving birth to me. That's long been used for the many fights and reasons my mom hates men. Ooh, I got this one. I was a very goth teen and I lost my virginity in a graveyard. The guy is now deceased and buried in the same graveyard. Edited because I forgot to mention that he died in 2006 and has his MySpace handle on the headstone. Edited again. Someone anonymously gave me the I am deceased award. Well played and thank you la. Ooh. Slept with a very quiet guy. Finished. Thought he did shortly after and was like, that was totally better than the first time, and we cleaned up and passed out. Found out the next morning that he absolutely had not finished. Whoops, total sweetheart though, just never thought that as a woman I would finish and my FWB wouldn't. Edit number you guys. I didn't even give the man a chance to finish. I thought he was done, so I hopped off when apparently we were just doing a position change. He was too awkward to bring up that he wasn't done yet. For a little while back in 2015-2016, I was dating a very high libido woman and we drank a lot, ducked like rabbits. A few weeks go by, and when we would have sex, I would come blood well, very bloody cum. This happened for a couple months, pretty gross. We wondered if my kidneys were failing, was my bladder messed and leaking, so many questions for a couple months. We broke up and after only a few days, I no longer had blood in my cum. Turns out, we were having too rough sex too often, and the constant pounding was rupturing blood vessels in my penis, and we never rested long enough to let them fully heal. The blood pressure in my penis during sex, coupled with the abuse, was filling my urethra with blood. Moral of the story: duck too hard for too long and too often, you can break your duck. Edit. Amazing that this is the most popular post I have ever put out there. Not sure how to feel about that, lol. Double edit. I learned some of us men get harder than normal, and that makes this affliction more likely. Call it a double-edged sword. I was about 13 and came home from a Boy Scout camping trip to discover there was a tick on the underside of my dick shaft. Even though you learn about how to handle them in Boy Scouts, I nevertheless freaked out because there was a tick on my goddamn dick. I asked my dad for help and he carefully used the match head trick to get rid of it. Cut to 20 years later and my parents, a bunch of friends, a couple of parents of those friends and I are at a pizza place playing trivia, nomming some zay, and drinking. My dad is a lightweight and got pretty drunk. No idea how he got to the topic, but he is telling another parent that I was well endowed. The table was quiet when he said this, so all 10 people heard. I can only recall the tick-tick debacle as the sole point where he ever would have seen anything. It was ducking embarrassing. I should have just left the tick alone and died in peace with my penis parasite. Due to an honest and innocent mistake, the movie I fapped to the most in my early teens was Schindler's List. I know how this sounds, but read and you will understand. I grew up poor and we only had 3 VHS tapes my aunt had gotten from Columbia House and had gifted my mom, one of which was Schindler's List. One day, my parents were watching it and I happened to walk by at the exact moment at the beginning of the movie where there is a sex scene and you see some black and white boobs. I did not see or know anything else about the movie and I barely understood English at that age. I did make sure to memorize the timer on the VHS player so that later on I could put in the movie. Fast forward to that exact time, do my teenage boy thing and rewind the tape and put it away. Only years later did I realize what the movie was actually about and I have been living in shame ever since. Sigh. I feel like this is the only reason my throwaway ever comes out, but I came while getting the scalp massage at the barber's. Edit. Okay, not sure how to reply to everyone and if the story will add much, but here it goes. I remember the girl cutting my hair was about my age, maybe a little bit older, but we had a good rapport, pleasant chat, so after the haircut she walks me back to the tub for the hair wash. It's not a seated one, it has a full flat lay down, just putting that out there so you know how vulnerable I feel when the magic starts. Laughing, she starts washing my hair and rubbing my scalp and it feels really good. I remember feeling very relaxed, not turn on really at all per se, but relaxed in a good feel bliss. I seem to recall things turning a different corner when she started stroking my neck. Felt so good. I am not sure anything was intentional and I am sure it was all the standard deal, but I definitely looked back on the neck stroking and wondered afterwards. Just picking up the pieces, looking for answers. LOL. I don't remember really having an erection. I just remember all of a sudden feeling it, its presence. It started to tingle, kind of that buzzing feeling, and then the pulsing and blammo. It was very weird, much more like what a wet dream feels like than an orgasm from actual sexual activity. It's been a few years and a little bit of blur, but I remember the wash ended shortly after that. I am sure I squirmed a bit and maybe tried to act looked like I was adjusting my body. I mean, she was focused on my head, so there's at least a prayer she didn't notice. Luckily, I had a sweatshirt and dark jeans on, so when I got up to go back to the chair for the dryer and walk through a frickin' packed barber shop, I sort of just put my hands on the pockets of my sweatshirt and sort of subtly pulled my sweatshirt down a little further than it would normally hang on its own. I still have no idea if the stylist knew, but bless her, she didn't act like it. She continued to talk to me like nothing had happened. She finished. We did the next leg of the awkward walk over to the checkout counter, and I paid and got out of there as fast as I could. So awkward. As I mentioned in the comment of another post, it gave me real anxiety for a while. I've never accepted a hair wash since, and for a while I would make sure to masturbate the same day I had a haircut scheduled, or if I could. I've also never really had a good professional massage before, and I am almost terrified to try for this exact reason. Very random and strange experience, though I do sometimes wish I could recreate that relaxing and blissful experience again in the comfort of my own home. I accidentally started giving another guy a hand job once. Edit. Okay, story time. The guy was brain injured. I was working at a long-term brain trauma rehab facility, and one of my patients, we called them clients, was a guy that had incontinence issues. He wore adult diapers, but at night we would also put on a condom catheter, which was basically a condom connected to small hose that ran into a little pouch on the side of his bed. So every night we had to roll the condom onto him. One night, I rolled the condom on, but it rolled right back up, so I rolled it down again, and again, it rolled back up. This process went on a few times, until I noticed that he was getting an erection. Now, me being an idiot, my first thought was, oh, that will make this easier, until I realized that I was basically giving a hand job to a brain-injured guy in a diaper. I just looked up at him kind of surprised, and he was laughing his ass off. He goes, "Hey, that feels pretty good," in a tone where I knew he was giving me shit. So yeah, accidental handy. Edit. To know, I did not finish him off, you freaks. That would have been a horrible ethical violation and considered sexual assault of an incapacitated person. I lost my virginity to the wife of my boss at the time. I was 18 and working at McDonald's, and I found out my ex-GF from 8th grade, she was 2 years older than me, was married to my shift manager at the restaurant. They were fighting at the time, and when we hooked up I had no idea she was married to my boss until after it happened. Later found out he had cheated on her, so it was one big game I got caught in. They later divorced. Sex was good, at least. At that age I was just trying to lose my virginity before college, but looking back it was probably a dumb move. Throw away, because my wife does not need to see this. LOL. I lost my virginity to my boss at my first job. I am male. She is female, who later became the wife of my boss at my second job. I was 17, she was in her late 40s. I never looked at her sexually. It honestly never crossed my mind until she was moving into an apartment and asked if I would help because I had a truck. We finished about 10:00 p.m. She said she was going to change and buy me dinner to thank me. A couple of minutes later she called me into the bedroom. She was on the bed in her bra and panties, and my dumbass apologized and stepped back out of the room. She came to the door, pulled me back in, and she got to have the worst sex of her life. It was bad, but at least it was over quick. Somehow that turned into a weekly thing for 6 months until she started dating someone and I found my first girlfriend. Well, she got married to the guy she was dating about 6 months later and quit work. I worked in the store for another year before graduating high school and getting a better job while I was in college. I am sitting in my interview. He is looking down my resume and goes, "Hey, you used to work for my wife." He offered me the job. My second day there she came in, found me, pulled me in the break room and swore me to secrecy. I worked there 17 years. I do not think he ever knew. When flaccid, I can pull the head of my penis back inside of itself. I am cut. I have honestly never asked anyone if they can do it, so it might just be a normal dick function. I can also pop both testicles back up inside myself, so if I do it all at once, I have got an empty sack dangling under an inside out dick until I let go. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.